The hangar was silent except for the steady hum of engines cooling down after a long deployment. Rows of SEAL operators stood at ease, their uniforms dusted with salt and sweat. At the far end of the hangar, the door opened, and in walked Admiral Marcus Hale, a man whose medals carried the weight of decades in the Navy. He was here for one reason: to meet the mysterious special operative who'd just been reassigned to his command. The file said, Little, call sign redacted. Mission history classified. Gender, female. A female operative in SEAL Command wasn't unheard of anymore, but this one, she'd been handpicked from the shadows. Hale's sharp eyes scanned the line of soldiers. Then he saw her. She stood half a step behind the rest, her posture quiet but unshaken. Her name patch was blank. No insignia, no rank, nothing but the black tactical gear that still smelled of gunpowder. The Admiral smiled lightly. Relax. Everyone, I just want to meet the one they say saved 2 platoons from a collapsing base in Kandahar. He walked closer, boots echoing. So, soldier, he said, his voice teasing. What's your call sign? You look like someone who's earned a good one. The woman didn't answer right away. Her eyes lifted, calm, steady, but haunted. The Admiral chuckled. Don't tell me it's classified. Come on, humor me. What do they call you? A few nearby operators exchanged glances. They knew. The woman finally spoke, her voice low, controlled, carrying years of restrained pain. They called me Iron Widow. The words hit the hangar like a silent explosion. Hale's expression froze. The room felt colder. The Admiral's hand, still holding his coffee mug, trembled slightly. Then he set it down. His throat tightened. He knew that name, Iron Widow. He repeated under his breath, disbelief creeping in. That can't be. The woman looked at him, unflinching. Yes, sir, that's me. For the first time in years, the SEAL Admiral, a man who'd commanded hundreds, took a half step back. The stories he'd heard about Iron Widow weren't myths. They were nightmares, missions that had gone wrong, where everyone died but her, and now she was standing in front of him. For a long moment, the hangar felt like a tomb. The operators who had been whispering seconds ago stood frozen, eyes darting between the Admiral and the woman now known as Iron Widow. Admiral Hale forced himself to breathe. His voice was lower now, stripped of humor. Iron Widow. You were in Operation Black Dune, weren't you? Her gaze didn't waver. Yes, sir. A murmur rippled through the room. That name hadn't been spoken in years. Black Dune was the kind of mission that the Pentagon buried in red tape and silence. An entire SEAL detachment vanished in the Afghan desert during a rescue op gone wrong. Officially, it never happened. Hale remembered the reports a sandstorm had cut off radio. The enemy had surrounded the team. Extraction failed. When a single survivor was recovered days later, they said she walked barefoot through 30 miles of desert, carrying the team's flag and a sealed data drive. He never saw her face until now. He turned to the others. Everyone, dismissed. Boots clattered as the operators saluted and filed out, leaving only 2 figures in the vast, echoing hangar. When the door closed, Hale stepped closer. His voice softened. They told me you didn't make it, that you went down with the rest. She gave a faint smile, the kind that hides more pain than words ever could. They told me the same thing, sir, that I didn't exist anymore. Hale frowned. Why erase you? You saved 2 platoons, took down a convoy of insurgents, and brought the intel back. That should have earned you a medal, not a deletion. Her jaw tightened. It wasn't the mission that got me erased, sir. It was what I refused to do after it. The Admiral's heart sank. Refused. She nodded slowly. They wanted me to lie, to say the civilians inside that village were insurgents. But they weren't. They were families. For a moment, only the sound of the wind outside filled the silence. Hale looked down, his voice heavy with guilt. I remember the report. They said the blast was justified, that it was enemy territory. Her eyes met his, sharp and wet with restrained fury. They said that because I didn't sign the lie, so they buried me. Hale stepped back, the reality crashing down on him. The name Iron Widow wasn't just a call sign. It was punishment, a cruel reminder of the woman they tried to silence. And yet, she was here, standing in front of him, alive, unbroken. He whispered, almost to himself, God, help us all. They sent a ghost back into active duty. She didn't answer, just adjusted her gloves and looked out toward the tarmac, where another mission was waiting. The air in the hangar was heavy now, not with noise, but with the weight of truth unspoken. Admiral Hale stood still, his back straight, but his eyes were distant. Memories he'd buried under medals, and reports were clawing their way back. He turned away from her, walking a few paces toward the window. You don't know what it was like back then, he muttered. The politics? The orders from above. We were told to contain the fallout. She cut him off, her voice sharp and calm. I do know, sir, because I was there when they told me to say the dead were the enemy. The Admiral's shoulders stiffened. He didn't need to ask who they were. He already knew. Years ago, after the Black Dune disaster, it was Hale himself who signed the final report, declaring the civilian deaths collateral damage. He hadn't seen the survivors' full debriefing. He hadn't met her in person. Just a stack of classified pages with a red stamp. SEAL operative, deceased confirmed. And now, she was standing alive before him, the ghost his own pen had erased. Hale turned around slowly. You think I knew that I did this to you on purpose? She didn't blink. Does it matter, sir? My name was wiped, my record sealed, and the truth buried. Whether you meant to or not, you helped them do it. The Admiral flinched as if struck. For a second, he looked like a man stripped of every rank and title, just an aging soldier facing the cost of survival. He took a deep breath. Then why come back? Why rejoin the same system that destroyed you? Her voice was quiet, but there was steel beneath it. Because someone's rewriting the past again. The same operation is about to repeat. Same lies, new targets. I came back to stop it. The Admiral's blood ran cold. That operation was sealed. No one should even have access. She stepped closer, her tone cutting through him like a blade. Iron Widow always finds what they want to hide. Hale stared at her, a mixture of awe and dread filling his chest. She wasn't just back, she was on a mission of her own. He finally spoke, voice low and resigned. What do you need from me? Her eyes softened slightly, just enough to reveal a trace of the woman beneath the soldier. The truth, sir, the original Black Dune orders, I know someone changed them, someone higher than either of us. Hale exhaled, his hands trembling. If I open those files, I'll be maybe worse. She held his gaze. Then you'll finally understand what it feels like to be erased. The silence that followed was long and suffocating. Finally, Hale nodded. Come to my office at 2200 hours. No one can see you there. As she turned to leave, he called after her softly, almost a whisper. Iron Widow. What's your real name? She paused, her back to him. Names only matter when someone remembers them. Sir. Then she walked away, her shadow long against the hangar floor, a ghost walking back into the living world. 2200 hours. The base was quiet, only the faint buzz of fluorescent lights. Breaking the silence inside Admiral Hale's private office, he dismissed his aides early, locked the door, and shut down the internal network monitors. A single lamp illuminated the table, casting shadows across the metals and dusty folders that lined the walls. On his desk sat an old encrypted drive, the one marked Black Dune. It hadn't been touched in 8 years. Hale inserted the drive and typed a passcode he swore he'd forgotten. The screen flickered, then loaded a classified archive. Rows of redacted documents appeared, lines blacked out, signatures blurred, but one document was still intact, a mission order, signed under his name. He opened it, his eyes narrowing. The order authorized an airstrike on Sector Delta, labeled as confirmed insurgent territory, but the coordinates, they matched a known refugee settlement. He felt his pulse rise. He hadn't written those coordinates. Someone had changed them. He scrolled through the metadata. Heart pounding. There at the bottom, a digital signature. Authorization update, a DM. Marcus Hale, confirmed by Command AI. He whispered under his breath, that's impossible. Back then, Hale's system had used AI verification. It could only confirm orders input directly from his clearance level. But there was a backdoor, a classified override used only by top Pentagon liaisons. Someone had used his name to issue a strike on civilians. It made it look like his command. The door creaked slightly. Hale's hand went instinctively to his sidearm, but then he relaxed. It was her. Iron Widow stood at the threshold, her expression unreadable. She stepped into the dim light, closing the door behind her. Find what you were looking for? She asked softly. Hale didn't answer right away. He turned the monitor toward her. Someone changed the orders under my name. Whoever it was, they wanted both of us gone. You, for refusing to lie. Me, for carrying the blame. She leaned in, scanning the screen. Her eyes flicked across the lines, then froze on a familiar code. L21 Command Directive. Her breath caught. That code. I've seen it before. Hale asked quickly. In the encrypted reports they made me deliver before the extraction. The same directive authorized the drone strikes that killed the civilians. The Admiral sat back, realization hitting him like a wave. It wasn't a mistake, it was planned. She nodded. They needed the village wiped, not because of insurgents, but because those people had seen something they weren't supposed to. Hale frowned. Seen what? Iron Widow hesitated, her voice trembling slightly for the first time. A Black Ops transfer. Americans moving something. Or someone. I never knew what it was. For a long moment, neither spoke. The sound of the base siren in the distance seemed far away, like another world. Then Hale said quietly, if that's true, then whoever's behind this isn't just covering up a mistake, they're protecting a program that doesn't officially exist. She looked at him, her tone steady again. Then we expose it. Together he gave a small, tired smile. You realize what that means, right? If we open this, there's no going back. She met his gaze, eyes burning with quiet defiance. Sir, I went to hell once already. I'm not afraid to go back. Outside the window, the night was thick and silent. But somewhere deep in the intelligence network, a signal blinked red, a trace alert. The system had detected unauthorized access to Operation Black Dune, and someone was already watching. The base lights flickered once, just enough for both of them to notice. Hale's head snapped. Toward the window. That's not a power fluctuation, he said grimly. They've seen us. Iron Widow's eyes darted to the corner of the room, to the small red lens of the security cam. It blinked once, then went dark. System override, she said flatly. They're cutting the feed. The Admiral moved fast. He yanked the encrypted drive from the terminal, slipped it into his pocket, and pulled open a hidden compartment in the wall. Inside 2 sidearms, a burner tablet, and a sealed comm unit. He handed her one weapon. If they're coming, it won't be MPs, it'll be Black Section. Her jaw tightened. The same people who buried Black Dune. They moved quickly. Through the back corridor of the command wing, lights dimmed to emergency mode. Hale used his master clearance to bypass the biometric doors, but every time the system hesitated a second longer, someone was remotely overriding his access. Step by step, by the time they reached the motor pool, they could already hear it, the faint echo of boots, synchronized and silent. She glanced at him. You go for the extraction files. I'll buy you time. He turned sharply. You think I'm letting you fight them alone? Her lips curved into a ghost of a smile. Sir, you don't have to. It's what I do best. Before he could argue, she slipped into the shadows, moving like a phantom between the armored vehicles. The first shot cracked through the silence. Then another automatic fire ricocheted across the metal walls. Iron Widow moved with lethal precision, no wasted motion, no hesitation. Every burst of gunfire was followed by silence. She wasn't killing to survive. She was surviving to finish the mission. From the command bay above, Hale watched her awe, mixing with dread. He'd seen elite soldiers before, but never someone who fought like death itself was an ally. Still, the odds were impossible. For every operative she dropped, 2 more took position. He grabbed the radio. Widow, fall back. We can't hold them. Her voice came back through the static comm, almost serene. You hold the drive. Sir, that's all that matters. Suddenly, a flash, a grenade hit the floor near her cover. The explosion lit the hangar, and the blast threw her across the concrete. Hale shouted her name, but she was already on her knees, coughing, blood streaking her forehead. Then she looked up and froze. At the far end of the hangar, stepping through the smoke, came a man in a black uniform with no insignia. His voice was low, familiar, cruel. Well, if it isn't the ghost of Black Dune herself. Iron Widow's eyes narrowed. Commander Reddick. Hale's face went pale. Reddick, he was supposed to be dead. Reddick smirked. That's what the files say, just like her. He raised his weapon. Orders are simple. Retrieve the drive. Eliminate the liabilities. Iron Widow rose to her feet slowly, gripping her pistol, bleeding but unshaken. She looked at the Admiral, then back at the man who had once led her into hell. Funny, she said quietly. You always did love to kill your own. The gunfire that followed wasn't recorded by any camera. The system logs showed only one entry before the feed died completely. Containment protocol initiated. 22:41 hours. Smoke and dust hung thick in the air. The motor pool lights were shattered, alarms blaring in half-broken tones. Hale stumbled out of the corridor, clutching the encrypted drive to his chest. His lungs burned from the blast. He shouted into the comm. Widow, do you copy? Static. Then silence. The line went dead down on the hangar floor. Iron Widow stirred. Her ears rang. The world spun in flashes of light and shadow. When she tried to move, pain lanced through her ribs, broken. Through the haze, she saw them, dark figures closing in. Black Section operators. Silent, efficient, faceless. She tried to reach for her weapon, but a boot came down, pinning her hand. Commander Reddick crouched beside her, eyes cold and sharp under the flicker of emergency lights. You never learn, do you? He said softly. Still chasing ghosts, still pretending there's justice left in this world. She stared back at him, blood running down her temple. Funny, I was just thinking the same about you. Reddick smirked. You should have stayed buried. Widow, I gave you that mercy once. She spat blood onto the floor. You call bombing civilians mercy? He didn't answer, just motioned to his men. Take her. She's valuable. The Admiral isn't. Hale heard the order echo through his earpiece. His heart froze. He could leave now, slip out through the east exit, call in an outside contact. But if they took her, everything would end. He took a breath, then made a choice. The old soldier's hands stopped trembling. He loaded his pistol and started back toward the fight. Inside the hangar, Reddick's team lifted Widow to her knees, zip ties cutting into her wrists. She winced but didn't cry out. Her eyes followed Reddick's movements, calm, calculating. You ever wonder, she said quietly, why they call me Iron Widow? He frowned. Because you outlived your team. A faint smile touched her lips. No, because I make sure the men who kill my team never live long enough to do it again. Before he could react, she twisted, slamming her shoulder into the nearest guard, spinning her bound wrists under his rifle strap. One move, one scream, the rifle fired into another operator. Chaos erupted. Reddick shouted, contain her, but it was too late. Even bound and bleeding, she was unstoppable, a storm in human form. Hale burst into the hangar, just as Reddick drew his gun. The Admiral fired first. The shot struck Reddick's shoulder, spinning him back. Move, Widow, Hale yelled. She stumbled toward him, dragging one of the fallen rifles. Together, they dove behind an armored vehicle as bullets tore through the air. Sir, she gasped, you shouldn't have come back. He gritted his teeth. You think I'd leave another soldier behind? Not again. She looked at him, and for the first time, there was something almost like gratitude in her eyes. They didn't have long. Reinforcements were coming. Reddick's voice echoed through the hangar. You can't run forever. Widow, you think you're the hero in this story. You're just a weapon they built and forgot to destroy. She called back, voice steady. Then, let's remind them what happens when their weapon remembers how to fight. Hale slammed a button on the wall, opening the emergency blast doors to the outside tarmac. Alarms wailed. The night wind roared in. Go, he shouted. I'll cover you. But Widow shook her head. No, we end this now. She turned, gun raised, eyes locked on Reddick. The two stared at each other, soldier and ghost, predator and survivor. Then, in one blinding instant, both fired. The blast echoed across the airfield. When the smoke cleared, Reddick was down motionless. Widow dropped to her knees, breath shallow, blood staining her gear. Hale rushed to her side, catching her before she fell. You're hit, he said. She smiled faintly. Not bad enough to quit. He looked down at Reddick's body. Is it over? Her voice was barely a whisper. Not yet. He wasn't the one who gave the order. Rain fell in sharp metallic sheets over the city. A black SUV moved quietly through the back streets, its lights dimmed. Inside sat Admiral Marcus Hale, driving with one hand the other, gripping the encrypted drive that had already cost them everything. Beside him, Iron Widow sat in silence. Her left arm was bandaged hastily with torn fabric. Her eyes stared out into the night, hollow but unbroken. They'd escaped the base, barely. But it wasn't freedom. It was exile. Where are we headed? She finally asked. Langley, Hale replied. There's someone I trust, or at least, used to. He helped build the oversight systems that verified mission authorizations. If anyone can trace who hijacked my signature, it's him. She gave a slow nod. And if he's one of them, Hale's eyes stayed on the road. Then we'll know. Hours later, the SUV pulled into an abandoned safe house. Hale keyed in a code, and the steel door slid open with a mechanical groan. Inside, old cum equipment, cold coffee cups, and one man waiting in the shadows. Admiral, the man said, stepping forward. Didn't think I'd ever see you again. Hale gave a thin smile. Neither did I, Turner. But I need your eyes on something. He slid the encrypted drive onto the table. Turner plugged it into a secure terminal and started decrypting the files. Iron Widow watched quietly from the corner, her instincts sharp. She didn't trust him, not yet. After a minute, Turner froze. Sir, this code signature isn't random. It's military grade straight from Pentagon Command. Hale frowned. Whose clearance? Turner hesitated, then turned the monitor toward them. The name on the screen made Hale's stomach drop. Authorization Override ADM. Marcus Hale, countersigned by ADM Luther. Von Hale's voice cracked slightly. Von. Iron Widow stepped closer. Who is he? Hale exhaled, eyes darkening. The Chief of Naval Operations. My mentor, the man who taught me everything I know. Turner's hands shook. It gets worse. Von didn't just override your orders. He rerouted funds to a private contractor labeled Project Resurrection. Widow narrowed her eyes. What kind of project? Turner pulled up another file. Grainy photos of test sites, sealed hangars, and something that looked eerily like drone prototypes mixed with human bioscons. Experimental warfare. He whispered. Human integration systems. They were testing neurological syncs. Soldiers wired directly into autonomous drones. Hale's face went pale. God, that's what Black Dune was covering up. They were moving test subjects. Widow's voice trembled, but only for a heartbeat. Civilians, she said. Families. That's why they killed them. Suddenly, the computer beeped an alert. Turner's eyes widened. We've been traced. They're locking on our signal. Widow grabbed the drive. Time to move. But before they reached the door, Turner shouted, Wait. He reached into his jacket and pulled out a sidearm. Hey, Turner, what are you doing? Turner's voice shook. They said they'd let me live if I handed over the drive. I'm sorry, sir. Widow's tone turned cold. You picked the wrong ghost. To betray, a single move, swift, brutal, and Turner's gun clattered to the floor. Widow's hand was steady, her pistol aimed at his chest. You're lucky I don't kill unarmed men, she said quietly. But next time you point that at us, you won't get a second chance. They ran out into the storm, headlights flashing in the distance, pursuit closing in. Inside the SUV, Hale gripped the wheel tight. He's not going to stop. Widow, Von controls everything. Intel, surveillance, even strike teams. He'll come for both of us. Widow reloaded her weapon, eyes fixed ahead. Then we make him come. And when he does, we show the world what kind of war their leaders have been fighting. The city lights faded behind them as they disappeared into the storm. Somewhere inside the Pentagon, an encrypted message blinked on a private server. Target Iron Widow confirmed alive. Admiral Hale compromised. Initiate Phase 2. The Pentagon never slept. Its corridors hummed with quiet energy. men and women in uniform, moving with precision, unaware that beneath their feet lay something darker than any enemy they'd ever fought. Iron Widow and Admiral Hale entered through the old sub-level maintenance access, a passage Hale himself had used years ago during crisis drills. Now, he was breaking into the very institution he'd sworn to protect. He moved first, checking the corners. Widow followed close, her silenced pistol ready. Every step echoed with tension, each sound a potential alarm. They reached a sealed blast door. Hale swiped an old access card, and to his surprise, it still worked. The lock clicked open with a metallic sigh. Behind the door stretched a corridor lined with frosted glass rooms. Inside terminals, biometric scanners, and pods. Human-sized pods. Widow's eyes narrowed. These look like cryochambers. Hale nodded grimly. Or containment units. As they moved deeper, the faint hum of machinery grew louder. Then, through the dim light, they saw it, a glowing sign at the end of the hall. Project Resurrection. Restricted access. Widow exhaled slowly. So it's real. Inside the main lab, they found servers and holographic displays showing streams of brainwave data, combat recordings, and something else. Faces Widow froze when she recognized one of them. Sergeant Kellen, he died in Black Dune, she whispered. That's his neural scan. Hale scrolled through the logs. They copied soldier consciousness patterns before deployment. It wasn't just drone testing, they were trying to upload human combat instincts into autonomous units. She looked at him, horror dawning in her voice. You're saying they turned us into machines? He nodded slowly. You weren't the only survivor, Widow. You were the only one whose mind didn't break. That's why they erased you. You were proof it failed. The room felt colder now. Widow stepped closer to the central display. Then, those families, those civilians, were test subjects too. Hale's silence was answer enough. She clenched her fists. They murdered them to hide it. Before Hale could respond, the room's security lights flashed red. A synthetic voice filled the air. Unauthorized entry detected. Containment locked down in 90 seconds. Hale cursed under his breath. We tripped an internal alarm. We've got to move. He grabbed the drive and began downloading the data. Progress bar, 35%. Widow turned toward the door. Weapon ready. We don't have 90 seconds. The first gunshots came before the alarm even finished. Black section operatives flooded the corridor. Muzzle flashes lit the lab in strobing bursts. Widow fired back, precise and controlled. Hale covered her from the side, but he wasn't as fast as he once was. One bullet grazed his shoulder. Keep going, she shouted. Almost there. He gritted, blood dripping onto the console. Come on, download complete. He yanked the drive free just as the reinforced doors began to seal shut. Widow grabbed him by the vest and pulled him through the gap. Seconds. Before the door slammed behind them, they ducked into a stairwell. Hale was breathing hard. Clutching his wound, Widow ripped a strip from her sleeve and tied it tight around his arm. You okay? She asked. He gave a weak grin. I've had worse. You should have seen Bagram 09. She smirked faintly just for a moment, then her expression hardened again. We have the proof now. What's next? Hale looked at the drive in his hand, its indicator light pulsing faintly in the dark. We take it to someone who can make the world see it. Who? He looked up, eyes steady. The press, independent, global. Widow shook her head. You think they'll let us get that far? No, he said. But we're going to make them chase us every step until the truth hits daylight. From a security room deep within the Pentagon, Admiral Luther Vaughn watched the feed, eyes cold, hands clasped behind his back. Activate Ghost Protocol, he said quietly. An aide turned to him. Pale? Sir, that authorizes open termination. Both of them. Vaughn nodded. Yes, especially her. Iron Widow dies again. And this time, make sure she stays dead. The rain hit Washington like shrapnel, cold, relentless. Merciless, Iron Widow and Admiral Hale tore through the narrow service alleys behind the Pentagon. Chased by the muffled growl of approaching engines, the air was thick with tension, the kind that only men and women of war could feel before the kill. They had the drive, the truth, the evidence of Project Resurrection. But now, the entire black section wanted them erased. Widow stopped behind an abandoned food truck, chest heaving. We can't outrun them forever, she said, scanning the rooftops. Hale leaned against the wall, his shoulder bleeding again. We don't need forever, just long enough to reach the broadcast hub. Widow wiped the rain from her face, eyes sharp. You really think the media will air it? Vaughn owns half of them. Not all, Hale said. There's a journalist independent. Used to work defense beats before they shut her down. If anyone still has integrity, it's her. Widow nodded, reloading her sidearm. Then we find her. The sound of rotors broke the night. 2 military drones swept across the city, searchlights slicing through the rain. Widow dragged Hale under a collapsed scaffolding, just as a white beam passed overhead. The drones hovered for a moment, scanning, listening. Then one of them spoke in a metallic tone. Target signal located. Orders, terminate both. Widow exhaled slowly, whispering, they're using our comm frequencies. That means Vaughn's pulling strings himself. Hale gave a grim smile. That's good. He's afraid. She stared at him. Of what? Of the woman he couldn't kill the first time, they moved through the rain-soaked city like shadows. Widow led them through forgotten tunnels, old metro routes closed after the 2028 flood. Her instincts guided them, the same instincts the government had tried to replicate. In the flickering light of a maintenance panel, Hale checked the drive again. This thing, it has combat data from every mission you ever ran. Every soldier uploaded, it's all here. Widow looked away. That's why they killed them. They wanted their skills, not their souls. He studied her face, tired, scarred, resolute. You're carrying more than any soldier ever should. She gave a small smile. You too, Admiral. They finally reached an old newspaper office in Foggy Bottom. The windows were boarded, the street quiet. Inside, dust covered the desks, but a single computer hummed faintly in the corner. A woman sat there, her hair tied back, eyes sharp behind glasses. You're late, she said, without looking up. Widow raised an eyebrow. You knew we were coming. The woman smiled faintly. You don't break into the Pentagon without making noise. Now show me what was worth dying for. Hale placed the encrypted drive on her desk. Project Resurrection. Proof that your tax dollars were used to copy human minds for combat AI. They killed civilians to test it. The journalist, Clara West, went pale. My God. She began transferring the data. Her fingers flew over the keyboard. Once this uploads to the decentralized grid, it can't be erased. Not by anyone. Then the power cut. The lights died. The hum of the old computer stopped. A low mechanical click echoed from the shadows. Widow drew her pistol instantly. From the doorway, a man stepped in, tall, dressed in a sleek gray combat suit, visor glowing blue. Agent Ghost, Hale whispered. Vaughn's personal executioner. Widow's jaw tightened. He sent his best. A room filled with tension. Rain dripped through the broken ceiling as Widow stepped forward. Weapon steady. Ghost's voice came through the helmet, calm cold. Admiral Hale, Iron Widow. Surrender the data. You will not suffer. Widow smirked. You think suffering scares me. She moved first. A flash. A single shot. Ghost moved faster than any normal human. Augmented reflexes. Widow ducked behind a desk. Bullets slicing through splintered wood. Hale fired too, but his aim faltered. Ghost shot back. Hale fell, a round tearing through his side. Widow screamed. He waved her off. Finish it. She moved like a storm. Years of buried instincts came alive. Every muscle memory, every kill, every wound, it all converged into that moment. Ghost swung his weapon. She disarmed him with a brutal knee strike. He countered with a punch that cracked her visor. They collided again, the sound of rain and violence merging into one. Finally, she drove her combat knife straight through the visor. The light in Ghost's eyes flickered, then went dark. Widow stood over him, chest heaving, rain mixing with blood. Hale was on the floor, pale but alive. Clara hurried to him, reconnecting the power. The monitor came back on. Upload, 63%, 64%. Widow looked at Hale. You hold on. You're not dying here. He smiled faintly. You always did have terrible luck, Widow. She held his hand. No, just bad missions. The upload finished. 100% distributed successfully. Clara looked up, tears in her eyes. It's done. The world's going to see everything. Outside, sirens wailed. The sound of approaching vehicles. Vaughn's men were closing in. Widow picked up Hale's sidearm. Then we make our stand. From a helicopter above, Admiral Vaughn watched the flames begin to rise from the street below. He leaned forward, expression cold. Bring me confirmation, he said. I want to see her body myself. But deep down beneath the steel, there was a tremor. Because even he, the man who buried the truth, couldn't shake the fear that Iron Widow had already become something he couldn't kill. Dawn broke over. Washington, D.C., pale light spilling through clouds of smoke. The city was waking up to chaos. Headlines. Broadcasts. Encrypted leaks. The data had gone public. Project Resurrection. Exposed SEAL AI program linked to civilian massacres. Pentagon, silent on Black Ops. Scandal. The world finally saw the truth, and the woman they once called Iron Widow had vanished into the storm. Inside the ruined newsroom, Iron Widow knelt beside Admiral Hale. His breathing was shallow, his uniform soaked in blood. Clara pressed her hands on the wound, trying to keep him alive. Stay with us, Admiral, she whispered. He coughed, a faint smile touching his lips. We did it, didn't we? Widow nodded slowly. You kept your promise. He looked at her, eyes dim but proud. You were the best soldier I ever commanded, and the best secret they ever feared. Her voice trembled. You're not dying here, not after all this. But he knew, and she knew. He reached up, his hand brushing hers. When they ask who did this, tell them it was all of us. Not just a ghost, not just a widow. Soldiers. Human. His eyes went still. The rain outside stopped. The world held its breath. Widow stood in silence for a long time. Then she closed his eyes and placed his SEAL insignia on his chest. Clara's voice broke the silence. They'll come for you now. Vaughn will burn this city to find you. Widow turned, her gaze cold and resolute. Then he'll find me waiting. Hours later, the Pentagon was in lockdown. Reporters swarmed the gates. Admiral Luther Vaughn walked through the chaos. Fury barely contained. "Find her," he barked. "She's still alive. Bring me proof this leak was fake before the president calls." But when he reached his office, the lights were off. A single flash drive lay on his desk. Beside a folded SEAL patch, he froze. Because stitched into that patch was a name he hadn't heard in over a decade. Lieutenant Commander Mara Lorne, call sign, Iron Widow. The voice behind him was calm. "Familiar, you remember me now." He turned slowly, and there she was, still in her combat gear, eyes burning with quiet rage. A scar along her cheek caught the morning light. Vaughn's composure cracked for the first time. You were dead." Widow stepped closer, every word sharp and cold. "You made sure of it. You erased me, my team, those civilians, all for a project you couldn't control." Vaughn straightened, forcing his tone steady. "You don't understand the cost of peace. Someone had to make hard choices." Widow tilted her head. "Peace built on corpses isn't peace." He sneered. "You think the world will believe you. You're a ghost, a rumor, no one knows your name." She threw something onto the desk, a small, blinking transmitter. "They will now on every major broadcast network." Her face appeared. Her voice echoed through screens across the globe.com. "Unwavering. My name is Lieutenant Commander Mara Lorne. They called me Iron Widow. I served my country. I bled for it, and when I saw innocent lives destroyed in the name of control, they buried me. I am not your weapon. I am not your ghost. I am every soldier who refused to forget what humanity means." Crowds gathered in the streets. Soldiers watching from bases saluted quietly. The world had found its witness. Back in the office, Vaughn's composure shattered. "You'll bring the system down, you idiot. You think they'll thank you for this?" Widow stepped closer, voice like steel. "I don't want their thanks. Just the truth." He reached for his pistol, but she was faster, her weapon aimed at his chest. She didn't shoot. Instead, she placed the gun on his desk and whispered, "You don't deserve a bullet. You deserve to live long enough to see the world you built crumble." Then she turned and walked away. The sirens wailed again, but this time not in pursuit. They were mourning, honoring, as she disappeared into the early morning fog. Clara's final broadcast echoed over the airwaves. "The woman behind the leak, the one they called Iron Widow, has vanished. Some say she died in the firefight. Others say she's still out there, watching, whatever the truth. She gave us something the world forgot, courage to question power." Far from the city, on a quiet cliff overlooking the Atlantic, a figure stood in silence. Waves crashed below. The wind tugged at her jacket, the same worn SEAL patch sewn back onto the shoulder. She touched Hale's insignia one last time, and whispered to the sea, "Rest easy, old man. Mission complete." She turned, walking into the horizon. No name, no rank, just the legend they failed to erase. Iron Widow. Thanks for being here till the end. If this story moved you, give it a like, subscribe for more real moments, and share your thoughts. I read every comment.